So, in probably one of the weirdest crossovers I've ever seen in my life, Cathie Wood was invited on a podcast with two former pro basketball players. Yeah, you couldn't even make this shit up. And in it, she discussed Palantir and where she thinks the company is going in respect to the future of artificial intelligence, saying that she believes Palantir will be the #1 player in AI, implying that Palantir will one day be a $1 trillion company. Now, the reason that this is so unexpected is because Cathie Wood is an investor and the CEO of ARK Invest, which is an investment management firm that mainly deals in buying up risky, disruptive tech stocks. And these two former basketball players honestly didn't seem like they had a clue to what Palantir really was, or even if they cared.
Oh my God, bro.
Also, just being honest here, Cathie Wood is someone who sold nearly $150 million worth of Palantir stock back in February of 2022, when the stock was around $12 a share. And not to mention, she also sold around 800,000 shares of NVIDIA stock at basically one of its lowest points in 2022, before it had its massive run up, which basically could have 6 times her money. But I digress. Now, I'm not saying running an investment firm is easy by any means, but needless to say, I would argue that Cathie Wood is not a genius investor by any stretch of the imagination. Still though, either through luck, due diligence, or a combination of both, she was right on her Tesla call back before the stock was flying high, and everyone loved her for it. So, while I don't think Cathie Wood should be blindly followed, I do think she has some interesting things to say when it comes to Palantir. So sit back, relax, and I'll play a portion of the podcast for you. Enjoy.
NVIDIA was our primary play on it, and no one would listen to us. They didn't know what AI was until ChatGPT, and it made a difference in their own lives. Just to bring to life how fast these costs are falling. So ChatGPT, if that had been developed, if developers had developed it in 2015, it would have cost roughly $500 million to develop that model. In fact, in 2020, 5 years later, it cost $450,000. Today, it would cost a couple of $100. That's how quickly things are changing. Costs of AI training costs are dropping 75% per year. And AI inference costs, so using AI, that's dropping more than 85%. These large language models are getting larger and larger and more expensive to build out and need a tremendous number of GPUs, graphic processing units, back to NVIDIA, right? Now that we have recognized that cost, what companies are doing, they're both private models, some of the ones you're talking about, meaning they're closed. And then you've got open source models. So if you look at Meta platforms, it's giving away its large language model capabilities, and it's paying for the GPUs supporting it. So I'm very intrigued by your question. It is, what's going to win here? And so what we have done, it's in our Big Ideas 2024, you'll see a chart, and you look at the performance gains of those closed models, and they're definitely increasing. But then you look at the performance gains of the open source models. The models themselves do not perform as well, but their performance is increasing faster than the closed ones. So I think there's a big battle. What we're seeing from companies now is these foundation models like OpenAI and Anthropic and Llama 2, which is Meta platforms. Our companies, many companies, are leveraging off of them, and we see that part of the world commoditizing a bit more. They're trying to charge for it now. They're being successful now, but these open source models are improving faster. So it's a dynamic we need to watch. GPT-4, it took performance in the closed world up another big notch. We're waiting for Meta platforms next. It'll be Llama 3. Does that leapfrog as well, or do the closed models win? So, this is a disruptive innovation. I think the ethos, the open source ethos out there, if you look at the internet, that's open source, and look how that proliferated and benefited so many lives. Do we want to close this ecosystem now? I'm a fan of open source, but we have to keep an open mind saying, and in fact, in our venture fund, we have a venture fund we started about a year ago, we own Anthropic. And when OpenAI went through all the drama, they fired Sam Altman, and then they brought him back. Anthropic was a huge beneficiary. So it's a very fertile and volatile existence right now. This is how the internet felt in the early 90s. And I remember thinking back then, okay, this is going to be big. What do I need to do with this? And so we started studying routers and switches and headers and what do I need to know? I didn't need to know any of that. I just needed to know Cisco. Cisco was the company that built out the backbone effectively. I needed to know about the apps that we're going to build on top of it. So we are looking for that. In AI, and I have to say, Palantir reported this week, and Alex Karp, who's the CEO, believes that Palantir will be the largest AI company in the world. And after looking at their results, listening to Alex and his team, I think that might be right. Because what's happening is companies around the world are saying, this is big, and we know we can't be left behind. And CEOs are getting involved in the decision, not just CTOs. Because there's so many small AI companies that have these, chatbots and point solutions, and, they're depending on others to put them all together. Palantir is saying, no, you have to look at the organization and get the data in one place, integrate it, get the workflows. So I think it could be a big disruptor, and nobody believes this right now, but it could be a big disruptor to Microsoft. So we have a morning meeting every morning. The morning meeting starts at 8:45 and usually goes to 10:30. A little bit of business, company business for the first 15 minutes or so. Then it's all research. And our analysts put into or throw in anything that's happened overnight or in the last day that has any relevance to anything we're doing. Getting there faster. What's so fascinating to me is I love watching where talent's going. I follow talent, and I want to know anytime someone leaves one of our companies and anytime someone, meaning in a strategically important position. And I also believe in follow the developers. So we're trying to evolve metrics where we follow the developers. Who's migrating to which platform, faster, and increasing the probability of success of that platform. So people, we talk a lot about technology, but I follow the people. And then, of course, we get all kinds of clues about competitive dynamics. And we believe that most of the companies in our portfolio have barriers to entry. They have some competitive advantage. So there's always a way with innovation to use it to your advantage and get out of the way. That's one of the things we say. There's going to be so much disruptive innovation. I told you how much opportunity it's going to create. The other side of that is creative destruction, which is, okay, it's going to make a lot of things obsolete, a lot. I do think like an athlete, actually, because, again, I'm sizing up, pulling in all kinds of experiences, and, making decisions very quickly on information that's coming through constantly. And a lot of it's just noise, fake outs, or whatever you would call it in the athletic world.
Misdirections.
Misdirections. Yes. But some of it is you have to, this is serious. Okay, I must move now.
Right.
So, and we make mistakes too. That's the other thing about investing, which is so interesting. I was a perfectionist as a student who rebelled against my parents and went to the library. And to get into a business where we are not always right, and we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be. If you don't just think on the court, if you didn't take some of the risks you took, you wouldn't have been the winning teams you were. You just wouldn't. Right. You just wouldn't. And it's the same in investing.